So another thing that I remembered that was striking when we came out of the court after sitting through a number of cases that sort of went like that. A lot of the stories were very similar, and the sentences most often being deportation. We came out and were talking with a couple of immigration lawyers, and one of them mentioned that the few cases that we had watched were in fact the lucky ones, because they had been able to access legal representation and were able to actually set foot in a courtroom and go through due process for their cases. And that in fact the vast majority of immigrants who come to the U.S. now are detained, heard in mass hearings, mass trials at a detention center, and deported without due process, which was astounding to me. So being from Georgia, I came back and in talking with different people involved in immigration issues in my state, I learned that in fact there was one of these detention centers in Georgia, the Stewart Detention Center in Lumpkin, Georgia, which houses on any given day 1,200 to 1,900 immigrants. And after talking with some advocates in this area, learning that the majority of those folks go unrepresented, as is the case with many immigrant detention facilities. Lumpkin is a really isolated area. It's about 2.5 hours from Atlanta, where most immigration lawyers would be. And so it makes it very difficult imagining that there are 1,200 to 1,900 detainees there, and not even that many immigration lawyers in the state, but much less in that area. And so almost all of them go unrepresented and are deported without due process. The other interesting piece that I've learned about both Stewart Detention Center and a number of detention centers throughout the country is that they are owned and operated by private prison corporations. So in addition to the issues of lack of due process, lack of legal representation, are the issues of making a buck on the backs of migrants. One thing that I found ironic and somewhat disturbing about particularly the Stewart Detention Center, which is owned by the Corrections Corporation of America, or CCA. It's the largest private prison corporation in the country, based in Nashville. So it's the prison is owned and operated by CCA, but there are ICE, Immigration and Customs agents present. But the majority of cooking and cleaning and kind of basic work to keep the prison running is done by detainees. So here you have a private corporation in which mostly undocumented migrants are working at the pay of $1 a day, but they're earning a wage, which is precisely the issue for which they are being prosecuted. And so the irony there, but also the hidden truth, I think, of both wanting for immigrants to not be our problem, but also this other side of wanting to take advantage, as long as we can, of this kind of lack of a viable immigration policy in this country is kind of right there as a microcosm in re-entry.